Check, check, check.
I'm pretty sure that stuff will simply fit in one of my pockets. some? No. You guys are just the earliest. Yeah, you're just the earliest ones here.
We're from the Midwest, we start on time.
Yeah.
What did they do? Call it off? I got just go further out there.
Here they come.
Yeah.
Here they come. We're gonna get the torrent. Yeah. And as long as you guys are here, this is quality, not quantity. To me. You're here because you want to be here. I think it was like the name was spelled wrong.
Oh.
There's coffee, snacks, all kinds of stuff in the fellowship hall.
Any word from the Paul yet?
Not yet. Still holding it. So, I don't know.
Wrestling with it.
Yeah, I think that's,
It's a good sign.
to me, that's what that is, yeah. Is it to everybody else? I don't know. Hi, Inces. Hello. How's your day go? I know, afternoon. Do you need extension cord? I would say one each. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, guys. He said,
Good afternoon. Thank you, Nikki. Getting this corrected.
Everybody discuss their stuff.
I know, right? Yeah. It's funny. She's probably gonna make us all move up. Yes.
I think I was on speaker. There's the judge.
I did.
That's right, my laptop, I can sit anywhere, I like to sit in the back and take
Well,
notes.
it lasted
You know, I have a
till
table
almost,
front for you.
so it was last week, around, it was like 11 o'clock when we were. Still, yeah.
Did you get the minutes from Board of Ed?
Minutes from Board of Ed, you said it recently?
I think Heather does them for us, we don't know how to type. Oh, that was a week, I think she said she was gonna do it last time.
That's fine.
Yep.
As long as we get it before the next meeting,
That's what I said.
that's good.
Only 9.
Yeah, before the council meeting, it would be, when the council meeting is. It's the
Next
same
time,
kind of holiday.
we're gonna have a mini and a little craft to do here. We were gonna go somewhere, it's in May, it's not till May, 17th.
She did.
Oh, Eric is the 17th, my daughter, she's the 17th.
Council meeting is Thursday.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Are you real?
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
I'm
can you look?
well, you have to keep her distracted and you can do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's hard to make it move up.
Would anyone like a writing utensil? Just in case.
Do we need a table then?
Oh, that's such a bad throw.
No, it wasn't, it was exactly.
No, it was flippy, it was flippy. No, you don't need a table.
I had a 50-50 shot.
Sassy.
I wanna use my lap.
Hymnal?
Huh?
Hymnal?
I didn't hear what you said.
You can use a hymnal to.
Yeah, well, you could just, you have a table, that's.
You can-
Okay, people, I get it.
Yeah, consider it
You
here.
know, I have elbows, I have this,
Just have Robert turn around and use his back or something. There you go.
this.
The bookmarks would make it uneven.
What was said now?
Let's use Robert's back and I said the bookmarks would make it uneven.
I'm glad you keep him in mind.
See, he just wanted a reaction. Going to grow worse than the last.
I should have brought Sloan's tray. What I need to do. That's your beatbox. Yes. No. She ordered for this one again, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying because of the phone and everything, right?
There's a snacks and coffee and coffee and grass for
New set. Well, I do it the night before, before sun, so I make it to church. Well, some Thursday you do it, some Thursday morning.
Yeah, so when we were coming to this work, they're going to Barcelona next.
She just texted me, she poured her first Guinness in about an A plus. Yeah, yeah. No, right? I am. Well, it is hard to do, right? Right, there's a certain, bring it up in some time.
Okay, here we go.
She did a little while too.
There's a coffee and snacks in the fellowship hall if anybody wants to fill up.
I thought that was a long way. I'm like, well, that's nothing now.
And you're going in about 48 seconds. So does anyone need a pen? Does anybody need a pen? A writing utensil? Not necessarily that you're going to need one, but if you want to take any notes during this. Anybody need a writing utensil? Nice. Actually, all right. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to have you here today. Although we heard back from 66 people in the survey, I was definitely not expecting 66 to be us hoping for it. But it's good to have all of you here and to see a pretty decent cross section of members that are here today too. So thank you very much for being here. This is not the last of our meetings with regards to getting together with the congregation, sharing some thoughts, and moving ahead with things as a congregation and planning something like that. But this is a great place to start, get some feedback, and as I look around the room here, I was praying, I'm glad that there are some new members that are here. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Rich. And Aaron, that's right. But also some, I think, members that have been here for a minute, and to be able to see a little bit of history and a little bit of new history is always a good thing to have that perspective. So we're going to begin today with a little devotion from God's Word, and I picked Proverbs 16:9 and Proverbs 19:21. These may sound familiar to you because these are the exact same words from God that we got into in 2017 when last we sat down and put together a 5-year plan that is now 7 years old. And so let's go ahead and read these passages together, everybody. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. I love those passages. I should also say 2 greetings to those who are tuning in online. For those who might tune in and watch this a little bit later, we are live streaming this too, so it'll be uploaded onto our YouTube page. So, but these passages just mean the world to me. You see throughout Scripture God talking about this beautiful word stewardship. And as God talks about stewardship throughout His Word, He approaches it in four realms, so to speak: time, talents, treasures, and a kind of newer one that maybe you're not that familiar with is temple, our worship habits. And we like to say that incorporates into time, right, and talents and treasures, but that specific focus that we have of worship is kind of a cool thing to keep in mind. And you see people throughout Scripture planning. You see people throughout Scripture planning. The greatest planner of all, of course, is our God, who the minute man and woman fell into sin planned the Savior to come. And his very first words to the father of lies, to Satan himself, was the words of the promise that somebody was going to come that was going to crush his head. And we know that very much through the benefit of hindsight as Jesus. And so God most certainly encourages planning. He knows that He's the creator of it. And yet at the same time, we also know that at the end of the day, these passages are going to ring true. That no matter how much we plan, the Lord is ultimately going to direct our steps. And that's the greatest thing of all. So when we look at this meeting today, we can look at it and use a lot of different words to describe it. We can use stewardship, we can use gospel motivation, 2 words, gospel motivation. We can use Christ, we can use faith, and there are so many other words that I'm sure all of you can think of. One of the words that popped into my mind in this whole thing, though, was optional. It's great to plan, but does God in His Word say you need to have a 5-year strategic plan anywhere? He does not. Absolutely does not. And so one of the things I want to really encourage you to consider is that today's meeting is a great blessing, and it's nice to talk about these things. It's nice to share the thoughts that were shared by God's people here. And yet at the same time, please enjoy being here today. Like seriously, this is a meeting where we just get to talk about ministry. We get to talk about things that we've noticed in the past that were great, things that we noticed in the past that maybe we struggled with, and things that we can look forward to in the future that are going to be great, and things that we're going to look forward to in the future that we'll probably end up struggling with too. So please don't look at this meeting as like, oh, we got to be here, or else congregation's going to sit. That is not this meeting. This meeting is let's rejoice and let's look ahead. Okay? So it's a great thing to keep that in mind, knowing that God's going to bless us every step of the way. Also, like I said, know that this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. This is a process. It really is a process. This could take the next few weeks. This could take the next couple of months. I don't think it's going to take longer than that. But we want to make sure that we're going through it with as many people on board and taking a look at it, getting eyes on it as possible. All right? So let's pray. Lord, be with us, bless us. We know that you call us to plan. You call us to be good stewards of the gifts that you have given us. Our church and our ministry with our church and school, they are most certainly gifts from your hand. They are gracious gifts, and we are blessed through them. Be with us and bless us as we consider different ways to serve you in the years to come. And as we encourage our leadership and our people here at Christ the King that you have brought into this flock, to be faithful to you in word and in sacrament, in the ways that we get to carry out the Great Commission that you have given us to go, make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything you have commanded, knowing that surely you will be with us always to the very end of the age. Your work, your perfect life, your amazing, unconditional sacrifice for our forgiveness, and your glorious resurrection and ascension, where you reign over all things for the good of the people of the church. You're here right now with us. And so bless us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, so on the front end here, I'm going to do a bunch of the talking. We're going to get to the point where towards the end of the meeting, we're going to work through what's called a SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and I'd love to hear back from you. At the end of the information shares that I'm going to give you too, we're all going to have the opportunity to discuss some things that you see in there, and this is going to be just talking about the survey that we sent out to God's people, to the congregation, and we'll get there in just a moment. But if you want to already in advance, you can take a look at this. This sheet of paper has all of the survey information summarized for you. This is not an exhaustive list. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that many of you here filled out this survey. And you're probably looking and saying, where's mine? It's maybe because I summarized it. And so, like things that you see where people are like, Principal Hintz is a rock star, he better stay. I summarized as maintain current faculty and staff. So that's what we see there. So those are the kinds of things that are in there, all right? So just keep that in mind. So what's the goal of today? Just a simple plan to share. Can we come up with something like that we can send back to our leadership and give them a chance to put some meat on the bones? Accountability to leadership is letting our leaders that we've elected in our congregation know that as a congregation we do trust them. That's one of the reasons why we asked them to serve and why we supported them when they stood up in front of church on that Sunday and were welcomed in as leadership in our congregation. And then also another important thing of this is follow through with members. How do we encourage God's people here to follow through in things that we can go through over the course of the next few years? And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Back in 2017, we put together a strategic plan, and that was highlighted through 2022, which again is 2 years ago. And when all was said and done, it came down to, can we make a couple tangible statements that we can share as goals for God's people? And after everything was processed and everything was farmed through, it came down to someone suggesting, well, how about this? By 2020, we're going to increase in worship attendance by 30%. And by 2020, we're going to increase our student body at our school by 30%. In other words, get it up to capacity. That was it. That was a strategic plan. We put a lot of meat on those bones, and if you go back to that strategic plan, each of these had steps that we followed to get there. Like how do we accommodate that many in church? Let's add seats to the ends of the rooms. Let's clean up the balcony, that's a trash heap. Let's do this and let's do that. And it was just one thing after another that were nice little triggers that we could check off. But that's in essence, those are the two big things that we talked about a lot. So how did God bless us over the years? Here are some statistics for you that you can look at. Sorry, it's very small, so for those of you with poor eyesight, you can look at this. But to take a look at growth, you've got in this column right here, what was the plus and minus for communicant members. So people that joined our congregation that were adults. Some of the numbers, like in this column of total members, might be a little bit skewed because some of those who are communicants had kids. And so it might have been 2 communicants, but it could have been 5 total members that were in it. So just take that for a grain of salt. But I think these 2 columns right here are the big ones to focus on as far as it goes. We do track membership every year. The only year I really kind of stuck at it was 2022, and that was because that was the year, as you can see over here, this dirty word. 2022, I didn't record anything because I was just bitter. So honestly, like it came down to it, I'm like, who cares? And that was sin. And I confess my sin, but by the time all was said and done, the window closes, you can't backtrack and add numbers in there. And so it is what it is. So what did God bless us with in those years? I look at the people that God brought to us. Even in those COVID years, we were blessed with an addition of 16 and 15. However, we lost 8. And so that's where that net gain and loss was there. Over the course of the last couple of years, and this is striking to see this. God brought 35 new members total to us, and that does include kids, and 25 new members to us last year total. And then you look over on the right, and maybe you're shocked at that. We lost 26 members. We lost 52 members. And my prayer for you is that you see God blessing us with elders in the last year and a half especially that have been very passionate about getting real numbers to God's people and looking at people who have been on the books for 10 years plus that haven't worshiped and saying, what are we doing? You try reaching out, email, phone call, text, whatever. A lot of people moved away. And we even had some people that are like, hey, we're moving to the East Coast. We're moving to Hawaii. We still want to be on the membership records because we don't know if we're coming back. And if we do, we're definitely going to be there. And we just kind of had to say, no, transfer. Be there so that a pastor can look and say you're mine. Because it's hard to do that from 2,000 miles away. That number is going to go up. I have a feeling that number is going to be probably around that same number by the end of this year. Because we do have that many more members that we need to follow up with. And so it's really interesting to see that. And yet on the flip side, to see the people that God's bringing to us. And so it's really, really amazing how blessed we are. You noticed over here with worship attendance, that worship attendance on the average goes up pretty slowly. Why was it frozen at 225 during COVID? Because we entered into this new phase of worship tracking called online worship. And what Synod, what our church body told us, is if you're going to turn that into numbers, take your number of views per Sunday and multiply it times 1.5. Because they figured that it's not just one person watching, but a husband and wife. It's not just one person watching. It could be 3 or 4 if the kids are watching too. So I actually think 1.5 is a conservative number, but that's the one that we've used. I would actually say that we're probably well over 225 a weekend because we're at 197 now. And I want to say we're averaging around 40 views a weekend on our live stream. If anybody's aware of the live stream, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's about what it is. I'm spitballing. It's anywhere, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 50, that's what it is. And that's been a blessing too. We've got people, Jenny Shell is watching it over in China, so her family members are too. We've got hits from Italy multiple times, from people in the military going and serving over there. We get plenty of hits from the Midwest, from the East Coast, and so it's really cool to see that this is some of God's people's ways of keeping track of us and enjoying something that maybe some of them they miss from not being here anymore. And so it's kind of cool to be able to see that happening. So yeah, so you can slowly see us crawling back up again, 195 to 197, and that was in 2024. I'm telling you, I am thankful for every single one. This is just amazing and a blessing to see that number starting to crawl up again. I'd like to see that continue for sure. So yeah. Any questions or comments on those numbers? Any questions or comments on those numbers? Yeah, Craig.
How many chairs are in here?
Yeah, in here I think there's like 124. Just guessing. 124 quick too. But yeah. Yeah. So, other questions? Okay, school. Let's take a look at school. This has a chart. I love charts. So, I'm thankful to Wells.net for this chart. So, you can see again, since 2015, that was probably our lowest year ever. And those of you who have been here for a minute, you know what happened that year. It was just mass hemorrhage of people leaving the school. I'll be frank, there were some faculty issues going on back then. And people aren't naive, and they're not dumb, and they expect a product. And that was a good year for us as a congregation to realize that there has to be quality too, and there has to be accountability too. And matter of fact, that actually is good stewardship. That's what God says in His Word. You know, and that was probably the year that we started getting away from, well, we share God's Word, and that's all we need to do. And started thinking, oh, let's look at that. And all of a sudden, as that transition happened, it also so happened to be a year when we transitioned in faculty and leadership around that, 15, 16. Yeah, and from that point on, you see God's people, and this is a congregation-wide thing. It really was. There were a lot of you involved with this, and you know it. But you see this sharp increase beginning, and what a blessing it's been. Don't freak out too much about it dipping a little bit at the end. Understand that that's a difference between like 98 and 95. It's just sharp on this chart because the chart graphs 0 to 100. Okay? Any questions on that? What's capacity of school? Like, what's capacity of school potential? Like 125?
110 to 120.
110 to 120.
We have 11 or 12 in group. So this chart, you actually could probably add 10 to 14 to every number because this is actually just K to 8. This, if you got
Oh, thank you. This is the preschool
numbers are
numbers.
synod because
That's
our
right.
max in my 10 years here was 114. So we'll be over.
Thank you, Chris. That's very important. Those watching online, that's very important. This is just K to 8. It doesn't include what is our average for preschool, like 10 to 12?
10 to 15.
10 to 15. Yeah, so add that to it. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to have to tweet that. Yeah, Aaron.
So I remember hearing in a meeting before that sometimes some of the members don't, or some of the people don't bring their kids because they can't get all their kids into the school. Like, how big of a number is that? Like, would it be higher, you know, if those types of families were able to
Are
get
you referring to
everyone in?
members or non-members?
Well, I just, the people who were waitlisted for like, and just trying to get everybody in, I don't remember the specifics of meetings.
Sure. Members we're always making a priority for. This is why our school exists, is for our members' families. So we make it very clear in our faculty meetings and our Board of Ed that we serve our members first and then mission prospects second. You know, if there's additional spots available after that, then we want to serve people in the community that maybe either have a church home or they're just looking for some alternative to the public school. But I want to always find a spot for our members. That's why our school exists. There are some every year that I think probably in the last month or two I had a couple of families where they have 2 kids and I have a spot for one, but I don't have a spot for the other, so they're going to be put on the waiting list and maybe come back, try again next year. That happens. We had I don't know how many kindergartners we have interested. Probably interested near 20 kindergartners this year. 20 individuals, families. Some of those had siblings. Some of those are only children, or their siblings are not school ready yet. And we have 11 spots for kindergarten because I got 13 first graders in Erica's room, and that's 2 over what we should be having. So I can't overload kindergarten because then Erica will be swimming the following year. So it's this fine balance, as I tell parents, like we always want kids in our school, but we prioritize quality of education. So it's that fine balance that we're not going to put 30 kids in a room. Board of Ed has been very supportive with the classroom cap policy, and they give us the discretion as principal and teachers to enforce that and make decisions on that. But I always know the board's going to back me on it.
What's the percentage, member to non-member?
51-49, thanks to the Beach family.
Because now they're members. So we have that increased it by 14. So that was really what I wanted. Yeah. Sarah.
Part of that cap too is our classrooms cannot hold.
Right.
more
Right.
desks.
Physically unable.
I
Yeah.
have 20 desks right now, and I'm at 20 for next year.
It's almost like we need an addition or something.
Well, no, then you have to split classrooms.
Even that one. Yeah, bunk desks. Double capacity with bunk desks. Yeah, like, that's how this meeting's supposed to go. So, okay, good. Any other questions on that? I'm gonna go back to this quick, just for a sec. Just to let you know too, of all of these years, this is funny, 2015 was the year when Cindy reached out to me and was like, "Are you sure? Can we recheck your numbers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And they're like, "Really? Like 30 people, were brought into Christ family?" And I'm like, "Yes, put in the books." So, but Synod average right now is like 1 to 2 a year. So just and I'm just saying this, God be praised, because here's the deal: 50% of those new members came because members of our church invited friends. 50% came through the school. We are still tracking in that same way. And so, and I know, because I hear it all the time from people, boy, if it wasn't for our school, I love our school, and I would say if it wasn't for our school, our ministry here would absolutely be uniquely different. So I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying give God credit through the people that He's using for this, right? To God be the glory that people are coming and visiting through school, and they're coming and visiting through member invites. And so we have, just for a perfect example, we have a couple of young members that have been on fire and just inviting friends to come. Kevin Land is one of them, a new kid, and then Olivia Hoffman. I'm starting a big class with 2, maybe 3 of their friends Monday night.
Cool.
So, whether that is going to translate into anything, I don't know. But I know I'm going to get them for one class. And I know what they're going to hear. And I'm going to take that. But they, when I talk to them about everything, they don't say, the visitors, they don't say, "Oh man, just pastor is awesome." They say, "This is like one of the welcomingest congregations I've been to." Like, that's what they say. And so I love being part of it too. But as far as it goes, just know your role in all of that is super important. So, good. So what's the process of this? Examine data input from congregation, which we're about to do, then go through like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then put together a strategic team that's going to kind of take all of this and put it together. Probably we'll start with our leadership, but we're going to ask a couple of other people who might be interested to serve on that. And that's really how you get some meat on the bones and start saying, "Okay, these are things that we can do." And then the way that gets communicated to God's people is we'll offer cottage meetings. I'll run them all. They're really great. And it's just like, and they'll be broken down into elder last names. And so, A to D, E to L, M to R, S through Z. We're just going to invite people to come and share with them this whole process, what we went through, get feedback from them after it's kind of like a quasi-finished project. Then we fine-tune it one more time and come back to God's people and say, here's things that we're praying are going to happen through you over the course of the next 5 years. We'll probably knock it down to 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and just put that out there. Again, knowing, what's the next COVID? I don't know. Frankly, I don't care. But I am aware that it might come. And so it's okay. It's okay. And so, so again, it goes back to the Proverbs passages that we shared. All right? So, of the surveys, you can take a look at your sheet there. I'm just going to run through these pretty quickly. Again, just kind of verbal vomiting on you because I don't want to be here all day either. But I think it's nice to get a little bit of the share. What were the responses? 66 responses, and 35% of them were over 66 years old. So that was fascinating to me. 32% were 36 to 50, so all of you here. 18% 51 to 65, 10, almost 11% of 25 to 35, and then almost 5% were ages 13 through 24. So that was kind of the demographic ages that we heard back. It doesn't surprise me that it's skewed high. It doesn't. The last time it did too. But I was thankful that, you know, between 25 and 30, or between 13 and 25, we still had around 15% of our surveys returned from some of our younger people, so that was pretty awesome. Any questions on that? Okay. Here are a couple of things. The questions were really simple. The first one was, share what you think are 2 greatest strengths of CTK. I changed it to just share strengths of CTK. And these were the comments that I got. It was so overwhelming, the comments I got back with regards to, you know, our uncompromising adherence to God's true and complete word at the church and school. That was just like all over the place in there, which is great because it should be. I was hoping that it would be. You know, these aren't all necessarily in order either, just to let you know. The first couple that are on each of these lists were 2 of the highest ones. But another thing that was a strength was the community, fellowship, family-friendly, that kind of attitude and spirit that we have as a congregation. We focus on running a strong church and school. So in some way, shape, or form, someone made a comment about our congregation's desire to have a church and school and do it well. And I tried to summarize it, and that's what I came up with. I don't know if that's a really good way of looking at it. But faculty and staff had a lot of good comments about faculty and staff at the church and school. And that was very humbling to read a lot of those. But it was also really cool. You know, just to be able to serve is a great thing. And for God's people to recognize how our faculty and staff is trying to be faithful is really great. You know, you don't need those little bumps every now and then, but when they come, you can say to God be the glory and smile a little bit. That's okay. Leadership, scriptural and cares for the people. That was in there quite a few times as well. That our leadership does seem to care and want to be here to benefit our church and our school, and that's noticeable. Community and outreach is important. Opportunities for Bible study, there's a lot of them, but I'm also going to share this a little bit in the weaknesses. There are opportunities to serve. I'm going to share a little bit about this in the weaknesses too, though. Any questions or comments on any of those? Anything that you were like, oh, I thought this would be in there, and it's not, and I can tell you maybe it was, and I forgot to write it down. Any thoughts? Pretty good? Okay. This is going really well. What do God's people see that you're trying to do as a congregation? This doesn't mean, I hope people interpreted this as it's there, even though it could get a little better. Like we see, you know, you're giving it a college try. But, this was outreach in the community, especially the military. Many work to create a welcoming atmosphere. There's communication that's going on, activities, update of technologies occurring. We're trying to expand our campus. We're trying to nurture our youth and our teens. And we're trying to provide opportunities for all, men, women, teens, and youth. So I'm thankful that there was at the very least, recognition of these things. And I really pray for our leadership, for those of you who are here that serve on boards and have some oversight on that stuff. For you, you know, as you read through it, because I did kind of share it with the leadership, my prayer is that leadership looked at that and said, people are recognizing that we're trying to do this. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And so I think that's really cool. So any comments or questions about that? Okay. Weaknesses and struggles. I think these are the things that you really grow from. You know, it's great to have the strengths, and I love having that in front of me. As a matter of fact, I'm a big fan of something called Strengths Finders. But weaknesses are where we see people just being, and I love the anonymity of the survey as well, because it really gave people a chance to let it fly. And so some of the weaknesses, facilities, people said we get it, the county stinks at this right now. But as far as it goes, you know, those facilities need to get taken care of. And the upkeep, people brought up that a few times. What happened to work parties? What happened to some of those things that we've done in the past that we haven't done anymore? And we're good Lutherans. We love when people say, We used to do this, because, history is great, and it's great to celebrate, and it's great to learn from. And this is one of those learn from it type things. Communication between school and church, vice versa, needs to be regular. People see it. Again, going back to the strengths, they see it. It's the regularity of that was encouraged. Staffing, focus more on pastoral needs. Worship is, these are my two favorite. I got a couple comments. Worship is too contemporary, and a couple comments that said worship is not contemporary enough. And welcome to family. That is what family does. And so but those were pretty interesting to me. I got this comment too, getting rid of a COVID mindset. Like, how can we encourage each other to get rid of that COVID? And I think this starts from the top down, and I know a lot of leadership's going to see this. It starts from the top down, and that's me and our leadership. But as shepherd here, I know I still reference COVID probably too much. And so just to think about that a little bit, and it was good for me to hear that. Community support awareness. We know we do a lot of stuff. Do we communicate that to God's people? Can we do that better? Participation in different groups, limited or lacking. We offer a lot of stuff. Can our participation in those things get better? We offer all kinds of stuff. What's keeping participation in that from going through the roof? Is it times where things are offered? Is it dates? Is it, switching dates? What is it? And we need to be aware of that and plan for that. Holding up women and women's ministries. Are there ways that we can do that better? I will say this, I will, and gals, you can absolutely correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've done this better in the last year than we have in the history of this church. I really do. I had, at the last call meeting that we had, 2 call meetings ago, I had a gal come up to me after church and say, my husband's on deployment, and I actually had an elder come up to me after we started getting ready to vote on who we were going to call and said, what are your thoughts? She goes, I've been a Wells member for my whole life, for 40 years, and I've never once, when I've been alone, my husband's been gone, had an elder come up to me and say, can you share your thoughts? And she was like crying, well, not crying, she was teary-eyed when she said it. I just think that we're really trying to be more aware, and that's an awesome thing. And so, can we do it better? So, good stuff to think about. This one, I was kind of mystified by this one, but I get it. Xenophobic mindset of members. What does that mean to you? Can someone help me understand that? Yeah, Mason.
Yeah, I kind of want to, I don't think I agree with it. I had
Yeah.
about xenophobia, so I didn't even know what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
It's
Did it while we were sitting.
And, yeah, please, keep going.
fear or hatred of anyone that's different. And
Yeah.
Or thing.
right, and so I think with any group of people, there's going to be some aspect of that.
Mhm.
Say a weakness of our congregation is xenophobia.
Yeah.
Don't agree with it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you. But in saying that, you bring up the point of weaknesses as well, right? Is that as we go through these lists, perception becomes reality to some people. And I would look at that statement, and I'll be frank, if one of you made this statement, please come and find me afterwards and I'll repent to you. If you're watching online, you made this statement, I'd love for you to reach out to me, because I don't know who you are, and share what led you to say that. But I remember, it was late one night, and I was going through this for the first time, and I came to that comment, and I audibly went, ha! What? It blew my mind. And yet at the same time, it led me to remember, because I got upset. I was like, are you kidding me? And I'm trying to find out who it was. And I couldn't, because it was anonymous. But I wanted to hear more, right? I wanted to be like, what? How did this happen? Where did this come from? And here's the other thing. What did you experience that led you to think this? Because I don't think that this is one of those things that, you know, someone just made up out of the blue. It was like another comment that I did not share up here, but when I talked about what's keeping you from serving, most people said distance, schedule, priorities, so on and so forth. One person in there said, I tried helping with something and I got yelled at. Right? And I'm like, no, you didn't. Do you think they're lying to me in an anonymous online survey? You know, so I think that that's probably more like it what it is. Like, I agree to disagree. You know, I don't agree with it either, for sure. But somebody experienced something at some point in time that made them, that triggered them. And you have to be respectful of that. You don't have to like it, you know, to sit down and say, I respect it. Thank you for sharing this with me. We need to be aware of this. And if anything, if it makes God's people aware that every interaction you have with somebody who walks in through the door is important, well, that's mission. That's what Jesus said. I think the other thing to keep in mind is, you know, if you've ever looked at somebody that came as a visitor to church and said, who is that stranger over there? That's referring to you. What do you tell your kids about strangers? Don't talk to them. Stranger danger, right? And yet we find ourselves saying stuff like that, right? Oh, who's that stranger over there? And we don't mean it. I know it. I know. You're not like, stay away, don't talk. You know. But we use words like that, and it's just something to be aware of. It's really being aware of it. So yeah. Question. Yeah. Sarah.
Well, I was just, so that was one person?
One person. But I thought it was so interesting.
So you put it on.
So I put it on.
Some of these are like, you summarize because a lot
Yes.
of people said different things.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of people that said xenophobe. Thank you for bringing that up, Sarah. No, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
This is 12% of the people said we're xenophobes.
And I'm not discounting what one person
Yeah.
said, but I
Yes.
also, like, when we look at these other things.
Yes. Good point.
There's more summary in there.
Good point. I just had so much fun with that word.
And the age group, I think the age group is important there too.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Oh.
We live in a very socially liberal state too, and I think
That's
what's being
interesting.
said there, we're gonna have a lot of people that have been influenced by a socially liberal society out there, and be prepared for that, and be prepared that,
That's a good point.
that they're not gonna hear some of the things that are being said to them, to be Christian love that's in that way, and they might use a word like that.
Yeah, thank you. There's like a hypersensitivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Erin.
Just one thing that's funny is when you said fear of stranger
Mhm.
or fear of something different, the only thing that, without looking the word up, which I did after the fact, which was actually helpful because it's significantly more specific than what I understood it to be, is Lutherans are really Lutheran. And the hardest part about becoming a Lutheran at the ripe age of 33 or whatever it was the fact that we are not a non-denominational church.
Mhm.
We really are what we are.
Yeah.
And we are really looking for wolves dressed as sheep.
Mhm.
And that's something you taught me, not being raised in a Lutheran church. I had a much more accepting mindset of the fact that you don't have to be Lutheran to go to heaven, and you know, that statement stands, you do not have to be Lutheran to go to heaven. But we are really Lutheran. And I just don't know how to say that in a way that people who've been raised Lutheran understand.
Mhm.
We are not friendly to strangers if it's not Lutheran. So that statement to me, the only thing I hear in that statement that makes any sense, apart from the fact that Paul's comment also really resonates, but if you come in and you're tatted and you're pierced and you're obviously homosexual, welcome, welcome, and, it's, you're trying to filter through what you're seeing walking through your church doors. Please come.
Mhm.
But the hardest part about becoming a Lutheran at any point in this journey is the fact that if you did things differently, they're not welcome here. And I don't think that's bad. Again, you taught me for 15 years there's a reason and a way and a method, which is why we're still sitting here. But it is hard, because what it makes you think is, was was I not a good Christian before? Was the way that I was raised by my parents not the way the truth in my life? So that's, to me, that has actually been the biggest stumbling block about this congregation is that it's hard to join our church and not be raised with it.
Yeah.
So,
Fellowship's a big deal. Yeah, yeah. I hear, usually when we're going through the Bible information class, the three biggest hurdles for people to overcome in their faith, especially if they've been part of different churches for a long time, it's absolutely like faith is by God's grace, it's a gift of God, not by works, so no one can boast. Baptism and communion are real, and not just a picture. It's both and, right? There's a beautiful picture, but it's real. And like God doing work. And then fellowship. Church fellowship is like mind-blowing. And I blame the church. I blame the church of 100 years ago because this was something universal until probably like, I would say like maybe the late 1800s when the mission societies started to really get rolling and they wanted growth, not truth. And so they compromised the truth for growth. And that's like filtered down to today. And you talk about fellowship with people, and they're like, I've never heard this before. And you show it to them in the Word, and they're like, that makes sense. You know? And so, but you're right, I think it is one of those things where, you know, I go back, one of my favorite stories on that is Emma. How old was she when we were going to Our Lady Star of the Sea?
I mean, she was
4?
preschool.
5, yeah. 4 or 5 years old, we're walking to Our Lady Star to see for a basketball game for my daughter Caitlin, and there's a kid swinging on the swing out in front of the gym door, and the kid goes, hey, you go to school here? And she goes, no, we pray to Jesus, you pray to Mary. And the kid like freaks out, he goes, I don't go here either. Like that was his response, he was like, I don't go here either. I never forget it. And then we're like, let's go outside. Let's talk on the way home. Okay, to be fair, go ahead, Sarah, Mom.
We would go down to the waterfront. Emma would only play with kids that she didn't know if they went to church. So she'd say, do you believe in Jesus? And then they'd say, well, I don't go to church very often, but I go at Easter time. She's like, okay. So she'd come to me and say, I'm playing with this person, but it's okay because they do believe in Jesus. And I'm like, oh, Emma, you're getting what? But that was her. Like, she did, because it's stranger, but not stranger. And she's still there's backstory.
There is backstory, but at the same time, it's like one of those things where, you know, the conversation we had that night was, why are we saying that around kids? Like, do we talk about people in church believers ever? You know, and so, yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. I know she is.
And she just tried FaceTiming because she's bored.
Okay, good. Anyway, okay. Any other discussion? So it's awareness, right? It's awareness. You know, so playing off of what Amber was saying and describing that, even, you know, I know I've kind of talked to you, Craig, about stuff in the past. I get it. I think that's, what did I end up settling on after my rage subsided? Was, you know, someone experienced something, and to make me aware of it and to make us aware of it is really, it's a powerful thing. I just think that's very extreme language. And that's maybe what triggered me the most. Then again, I played Xenophobia in the 80s as a kid. Video game. All right. So, any other questions on weak? Is there something out there that's not there that maybe you thought about? Maybe you know, I really do, seriously. I love talking about weaknesses. I know my number one strength is positivity. But you know, if you're not taking what people perceive as weaknesses and thinking about them, you're really doing a disservice to the kingdom. And so, is there anything up there that you would like to make one more comment on, or kind of? Are you taking notes about this? Some of this, what did you write already? No.
I just asked if anybody else has a comment about weaknesses. Did you want me to answer that?
Oh, no. No, this is cool. So, yeah, any others? All right. Share 2 things you'd like to see.
I just wondered about the Lord's Prayer when we tried to change it to a modern version of it.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking about that. That was so stumbling block to someone that we dare to change the Lord's Prayer. And today which I completely understand.
Yeah,
You're
good.
not gonna do it that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
There'll always be a stumbling block with some people, I think.
yeah, there was enough, I will say this, I don't usually, I only react strongly to like one or two people if I really like them. Like that'll influence me. There were so many people that reached out to me when we did that it was clear that this is not the battle fight. It's just not.
Just the difference between King James and NLT.
It was like instead of our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, it's our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done. And then at the end it's and then at the end instead of for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever, amen. It's for yours is the kingdom, power, and I can't remember forever and ever, amen. So it just wasn't. It honestly like and I take a pretty hard stance on this. Then when I go to heaven or leave or retire, the next guy that comes in can change the Lord's Prayer in fire. To me, that is one of the few things that unites every Christian that comes in through those doors. Because they know the Lord's Prayer with the D's and I's and F's. They've never heard yours. The only other church out there that uses yours is like Anglican, I think, church changed it back in the day. That's pretty much it. Like, so if I'm a Christian and I've got this lifelong history of church, but I haven't been for 20 years, and I go in and I'm like, you guys can change the Lord's Prayer. It can be something there. It's some of life that doesn't need to be there. So that's what it is. But I also understand, because we've had people in the past, that while we're saying the Lord's Prayer in the King James, they're saying the Lord's Prayer in the NIV. And I even had one member once that said it so loudly that everyone heard that person say it. And I was like, okay.
Was there a problem in marking on?
Almost. That's when we have fights over it. Carpet color and versions of the Lord's Prayer. So, all right. Share 2 things you'd like to see CTK's leadership prioritize in the next 5 years. This first one was overwhelming. I guessed on the percentage, but I went in and I counted every vote of the 66. And I asked how many talked about this in some way. And I came up with 47% said, if we could see anything in the next 5 years for our leadership, please just see the building project through. And I do think if that's anything, especially for our leadership to understand, and they do understand because they're part of it too, this has become like a huge sticking point for some of God's people here. And it really has nothing to do with us, and that's what makes it so frustrating. Really, it's like, okay, thank you, but you can see that people are like, and I don't know what this means. I don't know if this means that people think that the only thing we're ever focusing on ministry-wise is our building project. I don't know. But 47% of the respondents said, we've got to get this done so we can move on. And again, it goes back to, I think, the comment Mason made. I kind of did take, not that you made it in this way, but I kind of did take offense at that. Because I'm like, we're doing a lot of stuff. We're trying to do a lot of stuff. And for half of you to sit down and say we're stuck because of the building project. So to me, again, after I got over myself, I kind of went in and said, okay, what does this mean for our leadership? Our leadership knowing that there's a lot of people that think we're stuck in this. Is there something that we can do maybe differently, maybe better to communicate we're actually not? And we can't control people's minds. I can't control it. That's one of the first lessons you learn. Is you can't live people's lives for them. But can I make sure that we're checking boxes on communication, on how we're sharing things, and that's kind of a big deal. So just something that's out there.
So can I say something about that?
Yeah,
So I
totally.
did not fill out a survey.
Okay.
All right, I'll look into that. But
Thank you.
don't look at it as a negative. So I've been in the church for a minute or two, and we have always done well in the ministry. We're doing well in the ministry now. But I cannot really remember not coming to this church and not hearing about how we need to build something. All right? It went from, we need to put in a lower classroom. We need to do a building. And when we did that building, initially we had something that would be drew up for this time
Mhm.
did not even compare what they wanted to do with that two-story building with the atrium in the middle and.
Yeah.
And we ended up with that.
We ended up with that.
But that's what God wanted us to have, but as soon as we built that, we started talking about, and again, I have, in 40 years, I have not been to this church where we haven't been talking about building zones.
Yeah.
As soon as
I appreciate that.
Talk about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree.
And
I agree.
We need to build something that we're gonna be happy with for a while, that we don't immediately have to start, hey, we're gonna start raising money for the next building zone.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing with you what God's
Right,
put.
but you wanna know something? Even with all that, I don't feel that there's any detriment to our ministry because we're talking about a building fund. It's just always seems to be that, where they all have that, yeah.
I totally agree. I totally agree. The language was get back to ministry.
Pastor, did people say the word stuck?
No, just get back to ministry.
So you.
Like getting in there. I just said it right. Yeah, just right now.
It doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
And people-
It doesn't. That's why I put get back to ministry.
Okay. Because I think we got repeated a couple times.
Yeah.
And I remember saying very clearly, we need to complete a project, but not,
Yeah.
we're not doing ministry because we're stuck in not completing a project. There's no
Right,
difference.
right. I agree. So there were 66 surveys. You know, this was more than 2. So, you know, but it was that there was definitely that vibe of we need to move on, we need to get back, we need to, you know, do this. And so that's where,
I guess I just don't think
Piggyback
people
stuff.
feel like it's not completed because of leadership.
I don't either.
As
Yeah.
long as that's clear, 'cause I feel
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
people on the
No, this is congregational, right? This is all congregational. So, yeah, right. Thank you.
I grew up in a church
Good comments.
where the church is on 25 acres, and I remember one change in the church the entire time that I was there. And to this day, the only thing that's been added is parking lots. And it's a massive church in the area. So to see that there has been growth and consistent movement is actually really encouraging to me, because I sat and watched this massive facility with huge amounts of money in the coffers and nobody wanted to make progress. So seeing this place making even the steps that it's making, or at least trying to move forward, is really encouraging to me.
It's awesome. That's great. Appreciate that. Other comments? Okay. Preaching and teaching God's word and its truth and purity in the church and school. This is good. I was kind of hoping that would be like above the complete building project. But it's good. It's still good. Second pastor or vicar at the least. Outreach to community. Offer diversity of service opportunities, not just leadership on council. And the whole vibe behind that was our councilmen and those who are in leadership positions are serving in amazing ways. Can we open up under, sub-type things for people to jump onto, which is part of the new leadership structure that we're working on implementing. But to hear God's people say we really want this to be a priority in the next 5 years was very encouraging with that, because I think for anything, leadership means we're heading in the right direction, and let's keep that rolling. Offer opportunities for service and growth to both men and women. Again, please understand that this doesn't mean we're not doing it. It means keep doing it as we are doing it, and be aware of that. Another one that was encouraging was elder work continues to reach out to non-worshiping members and share information with all. Those are 2 separate comments that I put together in one. But there were some comments about the elders continuing to reach out to people that have been here for a while and continue with communication. And so got a lot of positive comments with that. Continue to make our live stream and tech improved. Continue the church and school security improvements. Continue to recruit volunteers for various activities. Revisit outreach events, soccer camp, Easter, Christmas parties, all of those things. Go back to that and say, what's keeping us from doing that again? It's been a few years, COVID again, but another that. So, let's go back to that. Let's talk about that. Let's get some planning going for that. Website, social media presence, and management. So, keep doing that stuff. Discussion on any of those? discussion on any of those?
I'm just curious, when are we gonna start talking about how we could achieve some of the things that are up there?
We're getting there.
Okay.
You just sit down and call me bridges. And, so, yeah. How are we willing to help? There's lots of volunteer interest, but more towards building and grounds than anything. There were probably over a dozen people that are like, I'm willing to, do whatever you need me to do as long as it doesn't have to do with, being on council or serving in that way. I pick up a shovel or a rake any day. So that kind of stuff. Some people volunteer for outreach. A lot of people, so many offerings and prayers, and multiple people said, any way I can. Planning was another one that people said that they'd be willing to help with. And so there's definitely a willingness out there to serve and to help. What are the obstacles? They're just waiting to be asked. That was multiple. I'm really appreciative that people were pretty forward and frank, and they just said, my balance is off. Work, family, ministry balance. I'm spread too thin. I take on too much. We're spread too thin. We take on too much. Busyness, distance, family involvement in things outside of CTK, which I look at as a positive because that means they're in the community, And so I think take that with a grain of salt too. Just because they're outside doing things outside of CTK doesn't mean that they're not getting opportunities. Their age, aches and pains. Multiple people are like, I'm just old. And it's not like I don't want to do it, but I have aches and pains and my body's breaking down. Unqualified, what do I do? How do I do it? And then, my favorite, lack of motivation. So, that was my survey. No, I'm just kidding. Lack of motivation. So those were things that were there. So there's a willingness, there are obstacles. What do we do to help accommodate those things, right? 5 years from now, what do you see the same as today? Crosses front and center. Loving and welcoming environment still fostered and shared by the people. Church and school maintaining strength of ministry and teachings, preachings, as well as current relationship with each other. Current faculty intact. Health of congregation, they still want to see it fellowship and grow and work. Family events, seeing multiple generations active together. And then Bible study opportunities continue. So these are all things that people are saying, we see this today, we love it, let's keep it rolling. What are some things 5 years from now that you'd like to see different than today? The building and grounds improved. Men in congregation taking more ownership of next gen men. So are we getting our teen men, our 20-year-olds? Can we work at targeting them? Women's ministry increasing in size and opportunities. Again, it's not saying what we're doing now is not good. It's saying, can we make it even better? Right? So please take it that way, right? It's not just me as positivity. I think these are people saying, these are things that we would love to see us grow in. Faculty additions, music variety, more people involved to prevent burnout. And that was all related to like our current leaders. What can we do for that? More community awareness and involvement and more outreach to our military. Yeah. Any comments on those last few slides? Any comments on those? That all make sense?
Can you?
Yeah.
Be more specific about what was said about music variety?
Yeah. It probably, I'm gonna that's all it said. I think it probably goes back to we need to be more contemporary, we need to be less contemporary. I don't know what that means. But again, I think it's one of those things where I can't remember the exact comment, but some of me says that it was just that, offer more music variety, continue to offer variety in worship. It was comments like that, so, which I think we're trying to do. This is like, can we do it even more and maybe offer even more in the next 5 years? It wasn't under, you guys aren't doing this, it was under, can we improve on this even more in the next 5 years? I think there's lots of opportunities there. Sarah?
I think that just means Jonah and Amanda have to stay around longer, because they're so. Usually gifted going.
Sorry, that was my exact same thought. I've had a lot of variety recently.
Did you put that down in your notes,
You know
Jonah?
why?
Yeah, Jonah's typing that. But it is one of those things, though. That's a good point. It's like you're kind of limited by your people, especially in music. But I think for sure, what are some things that I got triggered in with that? Small group singing, teen group singing. Can we do more? Offer more like guitar, more. Please understand, it's gonna be really difficult for you to convince this guy that drums is a good idea in worship in a church this size.
I
Beatbox.
just said Mason needs to get his drums out.
No, I said, but cajon. But cajon and eggs. Cajon and eggs. That is an option. That's an option. I would love, actually, that would be kind of fun, Mason, to have you with the drum set with the plastic screen in front of you. The sound dampening screen. No, no. Anyway, somebody else had their hand up or something. Is that? Oh yeah, Robert.
All I'm gonna say is that falls into, I'd like to have the flowers on the altar like they had in Hawaii when we visited there. But it's not practical. All right.
That's a good.
It's not practical.
That's a very good point. Thank you. Does that answer your question though? Like variety, yeah. Yeah. I honestly, honestly, I should say that because that means I'm lying other times. To be frank, I was so encouraged by the sermons that came back. I really was. Even the weaknesses that people talked about. I can nitpick and I can do all kinds of stuff like that, but to sit down and say that these surveys were anything but positive and encouraging would be such a absolute misrepresentation, I think, of the spirit of God's people who did respond. And I had a couple other people that came up to me after services over the course of the last month and a half, and they said, I don't know, I'm not gonna fill out, I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna fill out the survey because I can't think of anything that, to say. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that. I really did kind of target some of our newer members and said, I really, really need you guys to fill this out because you guys are about as subjective as it can get. What are your thoughts? And so I think that was, and I definitely know that I heard back from a few of our newer members because anyone who refers to me as Schwartz, I know exactly who it is. So, anyway, so where do we go? Where do we go from here? We examine the data. Now we kind of get into that SWOT analysis. That's the next thing with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And that's really just kind of an open invitation and door. But ultimately, it's going to get to this. Taking everything that's been brought before us, are we able to put together a simple sentence that summarizes God's people's plans for the next 5 years that's tangible today? So in other words, by 2030, God's people at CTK will. Can you think of some things that would summarize accurately a lot of the things that we are talking about today? So I guess I'm kind of opening it up to the floor because this is what we did years ago. Do you want to just talk about this? Or do you want to go back to the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats and talk about those a little bit more? Comments. I'm willing to take comments. Craig.
Mine goes back to one of the 5 things that's different. So I think that we have, according to this list here, 35% of age 66 and above people who say, I'm willing to help, but I don't have something to do, or I'm not capable of. And I think that that's sad, because the Bible specifically says, old men teach the young men. Old women teach the young women the ways of the Lord. So at the very least, that demographic is who we should be grabbing from for mentorship. Should be teaching those underneath them. And that's something that I've never seen done well in the church, is atmosphere and an expectancy of mentorship going front to back. You've heard me say, we're always supposed to have like somebody like Paul putting into us, somebody like Barnabas who's standing next to us, and somebody like Timothy that we're investing in and giving to. And that's not something that I think is currently set up as a culture.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Actually, I agree with that statement. I think that older mentorship is really important because they have a lot of values. I think that.
Did you do it, Ashley? Okay.
Draw a little picture of Dan with a smile.
I did. I put a D for Dan. So, yeah, Gary.
As the head of.
So clearly we're going back to SWAT.
As the head of the ushering committee, that's one of my priorities. I try to get the younger kids involved into ushering as much as possible. That's just one thing that I see as important to get kids just involved in church. It's
I
a
wanted to
way of
ask
service.
if we couldn't do families. I said when we first started scheduling, can we have families? And then instead of taking the father away from their family worshiping to stand in the back, that the whole family, the little ones can hand out bulletins. I think that would be, would anybody be opposed to this?
Having Xander and Matt usher together has been game changing for our mindset going into the Sundays where they're both serving at the same time.
Right.
And this last time that Xander had to usher, we were out of town, and I said, hey bud, Dad's gonna be gone. Do you wanna usher with him, or do you want to see who Dad can have you usher with? He goes, I'll totally do it, Mom. He's like, no, of course, like his mindset shifted in that short amount of time, where he's like, doesn't have to do it with Dad, and he's game for it just as a person apart from the combo. And that happened through the mentorship of his father, through that arrangement.
Well, but further than that, Mike Wood then jumped in,
Right.
and it's just like, yeah, and Xavier had a blast,
With
because
Mike Wood
Mike
shocking.
made it fun, and he was like, this is great, so yeah, kudos for, when it happens well, it's awesome.
Well, and that change has been really big.
So opportunities, olders mentoring younger, fostering that culture.
Just a thought about the SWOT analysis,
Yeah.
A lot of times it's used in business and, use strengths to figure out what your identity is as a company, use threats to determine like, oh, competition's coming at us, we gotta address that. I don't know if we really need to worry about what our identity is.
Right, I
Our
agree.
strength, and I really don't, the threat would be that we're gonna go out of business industry, I don't think that's really gonna happen. But we should address our weaknesses and look at opportunities. I'm gonna throw one out that came out as a weakness with communication. Between the communication school, I think that's actually got a lot better. I think it's got a lot better, but I do think there's some things that are happening at the school that I really like, that I would like to see the church use, and the app at the school is pretty awesome. They're making changes on the fly on things that are happening, and then you're getting notifications through the app. And right now, the only way I would know something is changing at the church would be to go to the website and then check the website, and then the website was updated. And it's harder for the staff, I think, to update the website than it is to update the app. And I don't think it would be, and the other thing about email and texting and all that stuff, I personally don't like that as a member, there's not really a acknowledgement of what my communication preference is. It's just like, oh, we emailed it, we emailed that. I'm like, I don't care what you emailed. I don't read my emails. I don't read my emails from, I don't read it from anyone.
We don't. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's some technology solutions for communication.
Yeah, I love that.
Expanding the school app.
Yeah.
Might be easy, I think.
Well, and the cool thing about that is that congregate members, just like parents, can choose our programs they want to get notifications.
Yeah, you can
about.
customize it too,
Which
right?
is really smart, because then the elders that want to be able to volunteer with Sunday school or with SWAT, whatever it's
assign a older mentor to a younger person.
Just putting it in
who are
one.
more likely to use
Just
an
'cause
app
you
than
learn.
they are email or.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Others, other thoughts? It's okay if there's not a lot. But I think that, you know, that's the other thing too, is again, like I said, this is not the be all end all meeting. You know, this is just, let's seed plant and let's start getting some ideas rolling that we can kick back to leadership and they can kind of put some meat on the bones, talk about these things, and that's a great thing. Mason?
I'd say a weakness is the shed situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we asked the faculty, they would, Mason, I think if we asked the faculty, they'd push back a little bit, though, because they love the shed.
That's true.
Well,
Shed's
those
so-
go away, correct? Like we're all.
Yeah, but they've got to be replaced with something.
They've got to be, yeah, there's got to be a solution for that, yeah, that is a weakness for sure. Others,
The opportunity, like, we've spent a lot of time, really constructive time on the overall site plan. And so then I think as we get this part of the site plan done, like then talking about the timeline of the next part of the site plan. Like, so we just continue to move in a positive direction,
Baby steps.
but consistent.
Whatever the county will give us, right?
Yeah, to try and stay ahead of the curve. Now that we know that there's a 2-year timeline on a permit, like, it's like 3-year timeline on a permit. So it's like, now we gotta start planning for 2028.
what do they call it over there? The piecemeal thing on the property when we bought the property over there, do you remember? It was no, it was, I can't remember the phrase, it was like upbuilding, like structure, I can't remember, anyway.
You call it the outhouse.
Yeah, I know.
The story about us.
No. Other thoughts? Yeah, Paul?
The work party situation, I mean, I think we've all done work parties a bunch of times, and you come to a work party, and there's no one, a lot of times no one's really in charge. So, because no one's in charge, no one's prioritizing what should be done. So there's high value things to do, and there's very low value things to do, and if no one's in charge prioritizing what those are, it becomes a problem. Now to say like, oh, you're a trustee, you have to be on site, I don't know if that should be necessary. So then we started putting like lists on a door. You can't see the list on a door when you're at home to see if you wanna come in and do something, so I think that could be rolled into technology in the app also, where you have someone who's managing the list, and it's out there, and you can just go grab it and do it. And you know that it's a high priority thing because someone who is thinking through the campus is prioritizing.
Sarah?
I think one of my favorite memories from COVID was when a group of us all got together one evening and we knocked out a bunch of stuff around campus. We had food outside, I think that was during COVID, and we just got done what we needed to do. And I think this idea that it's gotta be a Saturday morning on a work party, people are busy on Saturdays, but if we can somehow foster that, hey, come hang out with families on, let's pick a day, and let's have the, you know, we're all there as a group and doing that fellowship thing, and then you have a variety of people, and we had talked about, now it's time to just like do it, so let's pick an evening where maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every other week, and just invite people, and then we're getting food, or we're doing a potluck dinner or something. And then it's doing the work, but also building that relationship.
Great, thank you.
So me and the family have been involved in 2 kind of work parties that Chris organized, and he actually had a really well spelled out list, and so we just messed, one of the times we weren't able to come because we were leaving, we were gonna be out of town. So I said, hey Chris, here's the 2 things on this list, we're gonna do this, and we just came on our own time.
Yeah.
And we did those things because he had it all set up, these are things that we need done.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
So
thank you.
that's really to mimic what Paul's saying, to where if you have things spelled out well, I mean, people can even take care of it independently, because I've been on both sides of that. Because like down at Ross Field when we do baseball, people show up and they're like, I'm willing hands, and we're like, go move that dirt.
Yeah. And that's personnel related too. Like for those of you who remember the last time we really did a work party, do you remember how we did it? Yeah, there are envelopes, and you know, and they had, these are things that we need to do, or it was a Google map of the campus, and there was a yellow circle around the map with a little box that said do this. And it was just go grab something, do it, when you're done, you're done. We encourage people to only be here a half hour to an hour, because we don't want them here all day doing that stuff. So we've had, and again, a lot of this too, it goes back to personnel. And everyone has different gifts and abilities. And, you know, you might have somebody in the stewardship position that, not stewardship now, but, you know, the trustee position that is more of a, well, I'll just show up and roll. I don't want to put people up, you know, they're busy and they're there. I'll just show up on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock and blow off the parking lots after a storm, you know. And so you do end up with different people with different gift sets and abilities that serve in these different roles, and that's how it's been the last couple of years. And so that's a beautiful thing. I think what I'm taking away from the survey is people miss that. They miss those opportunities. And they really, really want to see us getting back to what we're talking about right here, right now. And so I think that's, you know, a huge takeaway for leadership, you know, to take back with them. So, but that's how we did it, right, a couple of years ago. Again, I don't want to live in the past. But, you know, that is how we did it. And so it's been a minute. So to get back to that is a big deal. Amber and then Erica.
I was gonna say exactly what Sarah said, and I
Okay.
think that if we
That's awesome.
go about to creating fellowship, work opportunities that are combined with fellowship that have rotating leadership, right, so two families, it's kind of like when you clean the sanctuary and fellowship hall with someone, you're joining up, you commit to doing it together, you have fellowship together, and then you either do something together afterwards or you don't. But if you have that mindset where the person who organizes the work party, or at least the volunteers and what I would call the refreshments, if that part of it shifts, they become little micro parties. And then it also kind of keeps it, the burden from being on one person, and it creates more opportunity for more people to be able to say yes more often.
Yeah.
Because Saturday morning at 9, it's kind of like Tuesday at 6. Like if it only happens that one time every week,
Mhm.
or whatever it does,
Mhm.
you automatically just mix
People are in there. Okay. Other comments? Who else had their hand? Yeah, Erica.
I'm just kind of thinking, if we want to take action on that even right now,
Mm-hmm.
with the email situation that we're doing, not everybody reads it, I get it, but, besides you. We could just have at the bottom of the email, opportunities to serve this week, like, these things need to be done, and then a checklist on whoever you comp that you did it, check it off so that no one else does it twice. Which is opportunities to serve this week, those are in the email, so that everyone can see opportunities that they can take this week, that if they want to serve, they can, but it's not required, it's not mandatory, it's just, these are things we need to see that get done.
I love the phrase opportunity to serve. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. I love it. Thank you. Others?
Can I share a strength?
Yeah.
My favorite thing that you and Sarah and other elders do is on Sunday where you see a new family, you go up to people and you say, red jacket, 3 o'clock, please say hello. And I think that that is one of the coolest parts about our church is we're so small, that if you are new, we know that you're not a member. And it's one of our like superpowers, you know, because if you attend our church, you become a member or you stop attending our church, which is also unique to our church. I was never raised in a church like that before, where you either committed or you moved on. And I think that we should lean into the fact that our size means that we see you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
What is our plan for pastoral needs?
I believe what's being talked about, what's being discussed is vicar, second pastor. And that we're working that into the budget. Is it part of a strategic plan? Not yet. So, but yeah, I think that's part of it. So the biggest thing that leadership has talked about is budgeting concerns, because that's real. I mean, that's very real. You know.
Addressed?
What's that?
Is it being addressed?
Yes, yep, so it's being addressed in the sense of incrementally increasing what we're sending to Synod for our vicar program. And then getting to the point where by year 3, we're gonna introduce the possibility of a second pastor. So it's a jump of, 20 to 30, which is where we're at right now with the vicar program. And then the possibility of, I remember if we said 40 or 45. And then to add a second pastor at grad is like around 75 grand. So that first year would probably be more on 100 grand, because talking about moving them, doing all that kind of stuff. And so that would be a, ongoing commitment of 75 to 80,000 a year. And it's just gonna go up with tenure. But again, this is just initial phases right now. So thus it hasn't been shared because we're still wrapping our minds around, as leadership, around the numbers and how to get to that. We don't even know, do we want to go for a grad? We don't even know. It's not like, that's not up to the leadership to decide. That's up to the congregation to talk about and decide. But it's got to start with the people who are kind of pulling the levers with the budget and seeing how that's all working out. And so once we do that, then we can communicate. But I see that being part of the strategic plan too. Yeah, Paul?
I think that plan of stepping up into the general budget, good plan. So I think it was, you might want to write some of this down so people can grasp it a little better. But was it 25 that we're talking about for this round?
This round is 30.
30, and then you go up to.
Well, that's what I shared with Sam, so we're in for 30.
Let's say it's 30 though.
Yeah.
And then let's say the next year it gets budgeted for 40, but then it's actually gonna cost on the next year 75. We should be setting up a sinking fund of like 50 grand in addition, so then you have 50 grand plus the 40 you already got budgeted in. Or maybe it's 60 if you wanted, you're saying you might be 100 to get that transition. And then that transition is like, it's always gonna be a leap of faith to go and expand your staffing that way. But I think if we don't also think about it as segregating a part of the special funds to make that transition, so it's kind of a two-step approach. Yeah, general fund, but the first year, special fund should be involved as well, because hopefully we would have more members as we expand the ministry, which would make it more viable to support the pastors.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
well, I've got a question on that. I look at the call report every week. I mainly look at it to see if anybody's coming or going from the area, or do I know them because they went to Evergreen?
Sure.
Something.
Sure.
That's the way I'm looking, but, and with God, anything can happen. But I look at the number of churches that don't have pastors, and then we say we want another one. And if God wants it to happen, it's gonna happen. But, a lot of them churches are trying to get second pastors, and there's other churches trying to get one. And like Karen's church, where they go 3-4 years without a pastor down in Georgia. And I'm not saying don't go for it, I'm just saying,
Yeah, no,
I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying, I'm just saying that if the Lord wants us to have it, that'd be great that we did it, but at the same token, do we wanna pull from the pool that churches don't have a pastor?
Yeah, and that's, there's lots of pros and lots of struggles, with that. I've got very poignant thoughts on that myself. But I think, what's the reality? The hard reality is pastors reach a critical mass where they just can't do anymore, and they feel guilty that they're not, and then it leads to apathy, and that's the devil's playground.
Sure.
And so I think, am I getting to the point of apathy? I don't know, maybe. But as far as, I don't think so. But the temptation is always there, right? To just say, well, what do they expect of me? I'm one guy, and you can use that as it's a completely lame-o excuse. But I think, those are the things that are happening. So, are those congregations that are they at critical mass? I don't know, maybe not, I don't know. But there's a lot of us to be sure about that. And so, so it's going to go back to exactly what you said though, Robert. Thy will be done, or your will be done. And so, to keep that keep that in mind is an important thing. Mason and Erica, do you guys want to talk together?
So I have two similar thoughts. One, have we looked at current mechanical issues? Like, is the water heater, does that need to be replaced soon? Should we start planning for it now? So maybe in.
Can I put that under threats?
You can put it wherever you want.
I like threats.
Under devil, world, and flesh. When we started planning for a new building, started the building planning process, we really thought it was important to add air conditioning to the school building, because of money that ended up getting taken off. So maybe that's something we want to revisit adding in the future.
Erica.
What is the avenue that is taken to upkeep the person?
I don't know, that's a good question.
Because I
You saying something about it?
I'm aware that the bathroom in your downstairs has been needing to be fixed for some time. How does that come about?
In the email, put it in there.
Jen Brand.
The whole lower level is kind of hindered. There's opportunities to start.
Work party.
The answer is should go to trustee stewardship or action.
Yeah, and I think what we used to do is a yearly walkthrough and just.
Well, we got spoiled. We used to have 4 trustees and then we also had Kraut.
I was just saying.
Yeah, we were supposed to,
And we
yeah,
got spoiled.
Yeah.
Because he took care of things like that.
yeah. And if Kraut was here right now and we brought up the parsonage, he would say, oh, hell. Let's go walk down there and see. So, Sarah.
And just because we're on the subject of parsonage too, we are fully aware, we're 2 people and we have a home that would house a family if there's ever a called worker that would come and not want to have a home, so there's that whole part of it. But then if we're not in the parsonage, then he's getting paid housing, which is another financial thing, because he doesn't get housing right now, that's taken out of the stuff. And so there's just a lot that gets thought of that way. But again, but then there's things that have to happen in the lower level if we wouldn't be in there, so there's just all of that.
That topic has been broached with Poppin, who's holding the call right now. I did bring that up to him, and so he wasn't really, didn't really want to talk about it a whole lot. But as far as it goes, we're very aware of that ceremony, and so we are absolutely willing to acquiesce. The parsonage is something that's going to use it with a big family. So yeah. Or any family whatsoever. So yeah. The Hinses can move to the parsonage, and you can move into your house and take money out your father and equity and everything else. Just minor things like that. Okay. Dan.
I was wondering what plans or, plans on outreach to specific missions in Belgium counties?
Yeah, yes, I don't know. We've been working on that a little bit elder-wise. Our elders have chopped up different ministry opportunities, and just to kind of take on a little bit of a leadership role in that, but that's still being formulated. But like one of our elders is like shut-in members that can't be here. They're focusing on that. Another member, the elders, is focusing on membership tracking and how are we reaching out to those who have been here for a while. Another elder is focusing on community outreach, especially to the military. And then our last elder is kind of focusing on the school, CCC, the Commission for Care and Call Workers. And so that's kind of the way we've chunked up elders right now, but that it's just brand new. We just started doing this. And so that's a work in progress, but that's one of the ways that we're looking at doing it. Is that the answer for your question? No. Because I think it like a whole nother subgroup of something. But I think one of the things that I have in here opportunity-wise is really fleshing out our new leadership structure. That's something that needs to happen in the next 5 years. You know, I would say that to me, that's like 135, that's a 1 year goal, is we have to focus on fleshing out our leadership structure and what falls underneath the executive board and how they can encourage people to take care of that. So. Others? Yeah, Paul?
It's kind of on the finance side.
Yeah, thank you.
We've switched over to QuickBooks Online, which isn't, it's the same as what we were doing before. It's just the features are a little different, but there's a little bit more visibility on what we're doing. I think we need to reanalyze how we compensate people and the way that's structured, because we're doing something with stipends and things like that. Well, you use the word stipend and that's taxable, when it doesn't necessarily have to be taxable. Like,
You do reimbursement instead.
yeah, the reimbursements, because then we don't pay payroll taxes and the person receiving money doesn't receive taxes, and it's completely legitimate to do it that way. So I'm not saying they're not like wholesale changes, but there's also some things you should consider with housing laws, things like that too. I mean, I'm not saying there might be smarter ways to structure things that's within the rules to improve people's take home pay and lower consumer costs.
Awesome. Thank you. I put money in QuickBooks Online. You want more than that?
I would just say a compensation.
Others? That's a lot. That was more than I thought I was going to come. So thank you for that. So I don't know how to do the next part. Because there's so much here. Any thoughts on the next part, which is putting it all together? Are we able to put together a simple sentence that summarizes God's people's plans for the next 5 years that's tangible today? And by the way, it's okay to say, ooh, there's a lot here. Let's get together again. Let's take all of this, give our leadership a chance to digest it a little bit. We're going to make notes of today's meeting and kick it out to all of you. And so I know there are people that, God willing, will be tuning in online. We're taking pictures of everyone that's here. Thank you. And that way we can kind of email out notes to all of you and kind of just give you chances. And I think one of the other cool things that I see is, by and large, a lot of you are here, you're not here alone. And I think that's one of the fun parts about this too. That you get a chance to communicate. I would say some of you who are. We have elders for that, we have you for that. To sit down and talk about it, revisit this, and talk about where to go from here. The last time we did this in 2017, by the way, what this led to were the cottage meetings. So this meeting here led to a meeting on a Friday night and a Saturday morning that was group A to D. It led to another meeting the next week on a Friday and Saturday that was E to L, and then M to R, and then S through Z. Do I think that that's necessary? I don't know. We can talk about it as leadership, but we do have a council meeting next week. And I think to maybe take everything that we've heard here and just talk about it as a council, we can put that on our agenda and see where to go from there. It would be very wise. But I think what's gonna get kicked back to you is things that we talked about, the minutes that were taken, all of these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats that are up here, and then to be able to sit down and kind of just start working through, what do you think is a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal? How do you see this being implemented? Are there ways you can see it being implemented? Can you put together, a little sentence on the things that we talked about, today, and make it tangible? By 2030, God's people at CTK will have completed the current building project and advertised it to the community. We'll also have, recommitted ourselves to outreach opportunities. There are little things that you can come up with that are bullet point things. Here are bullet point things that we're looking at carrying out. And then that gets shared with the congregation, and we start getting people on board. Who wants to help? Who wants to be a part of this? Who wants to be a part of that? And really offer opportunities to serve. Because clearly people want to. And so, any comments on that or questions on that? Clarity? Does that make sense? Okay, so we'll take this, we'll kick it back to our leadership this next week. Again, be patient. This is a fun thing. Talking about all this stuff is super exciting to me. I'm kind of sweaty right now because I'm like, this is really cool stuff. And to talk about different opportunities that's before us that we can follow through on is really cool. Like I said, we'll get all of this out to all of you. Take a look at it. I'll have after the council meeting, so just wait for a week. After the council meeting, look for an email coming from the congregation that I'd love for all of you to open. Email is coming from the congregation, and we can talk about those things too. So, but I think there's plenty of you in here right now. I'm pretty confident that the wheels are turning right now, and you're thinking about different things that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool to talk about. I think I want to think about that a little bit more. And then there are a lot of things we probably talked about where you're like, who cares? I don't care. That's fine. You don't have to. Let different people find their different niche and niche and do that. So, okay, make sense? Any questions or comments about that? I'm going to see if anybody tuning in online has sent me a text message. That is a good one. All right, so what I just said. So, for instance, I already got a possible sentence. Within the next 5 years, CTK, while leveraging successful practices from the past, moves forward with new motivation towards greater quality work and support for God's house, God's people, and God's community.
That's not
Yeah, but I think that's what it is, right? So that's like a vision statement. How do we turn that into something tangible, right? And that's where you get that tangibility. So really thinking through tangible outcomes, and then, but I think this is kind of going to be one of those things where it was easy before with the 2017 one because it was like we want to increase membership and we want to increase enrollment. That's what it was, right? And we talked about different ways we could do that in the bullet points. And I think, maybe this is a little bit of a different vibe for moving forward.
I think if you look at it, it's mostly upgrading or maintaining facilities and flesh and bone type things.
Yeah.
That's mostly what it is.
Yeah.
It's not talking about, if we have to have the flesh and bones and facilities to. If you look at what happened with the school, we put more resources towards the school. And the school made it nice school, but we didn't put resources towards additional help with the classroom. And then COVID happened.
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah, it was a screw mess.
So anyway, okay. Great stuff. Again, keep it in mind, Proverbs, right? That we get to plan, and it's so much fun to be able to do that and talk I'm so thankful for that too. I'm so thankful for that. And, you know, even if it seems like this is happening or that's happening, the Lord's behind it all. And as long as at the end of the day, you know, we're doing our due diligence to hear the voice of the Lord saying, well done, good and faithful servant. I mean, isn't that really, like, isn't that what it comes down to? And understanding, I get it. People have different views on what that means. I get that. But God's the one that gets to say those words. And so, you know, hold those standards to yourself and how you're going to carry that out, but also know that it's nice to be able to plan and talk about it too, to God be the glory for it. Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks to the council for really pushing this. I think it's really great to do that. So we'll get it rolling. So I'm excited, but I think to have something out there that's tangible is really important. So, all right, thank you guys. Stop it. All right. Let's sing Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Feel free to stand up as we sing. All right. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Feel free to reach out to Pop and Boozes too, and just send them one more text and let them know you're keeping them in the prayers. They're still chewing on it, which is awesome. By next week. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciate it. No, it was me. Yeah, that's my issue. Yeah.
Bring forward.
I know. But you know, like, oh, that was delightful. That was delightful. It really though. I did it.
It's like on the same level as like, I think that's very.
Yeah, it's like, well,
You're that's totally fine. No, that's pretty extreme. Like I said, that was a game of the movies. Yeah, it's an arcade game where you're killing aliens. And so, but yeah, I took it the way that you did, Amber, too. Like, it's like, if you're not like, Lutheran, the garbage, yeah. Did you set the post for the garbage? No, I didn't do it. Yeah. It's hard.
Silas.
We had such good things about you.
Oh, yeah, no, that's always, two things that have always been on my mind. Since I was ninja, because I never thought I was. Something that always great. It's really cool for other. I don't know, I coach kids.
Yeah,
So,
because I
it's really showing that. I mean, I want to do, I want people pointing
Yeah.
to me. I want to point to somebody else. Yeah.
So good.
We do, it's huge.
Okay.
So it's just, so one of us share, it's interesting to see how we're doing.
That's why they don't strap.
I don't know what it would cost for, I mean, even if you just got.
And so,
Which is, in some ways, it happens when you actually,
I like that. I go to Barry more. Just having side conversations with Barry. I enjoy that. And the fact that you're listening to it, you're not officially like, but I think it's more of a culture.
You are such a mom. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna shut off the lights. Yeah, because Amber was about to start swearing.
I thought my point is my mentor, because he knows how to do it. He has all the skills on every single trade and idea.